Imagine being surrounded by enemies. No way out. No hope. ... And suddenly, the impossible happens. The sea opens, fire doesn't burn, lions become as gentle as lambs. Today, we're re-exploring the most extraordinary moments in human history. When God intervenes supernaturally to save his prophets in their darkest hours. These aren't just ancient stories. They're powerful reminders that even when everything seems lost, there's a greater force working in our favor. Prepare yourself for a journey through the most incredible miracles ever recorded, where we'll see how divine mercy transformed impossible situations into eternal testimonies of faith and protection. 2 million people trapped between an impassable sea and the most powerful army of the era. It was the end of the line for the people of Israel. Or so it seemed. When Moses raised his staff over the waters, something happened that defies all human logic. The sea literally divided, creating a dry passage through the middle of the waters. This was on just a low tide or natural phenomenon. The waters formed solid walls on each side, allowing millions of people to cross safely. When the Egyptians tried to follow the same path, the waters returned to normal, showing that this miracle was exclusively for the protection of the chosen people. Daniel's loyalty to God cost him his freedom, and apparently his life. Thrown into a den full of hungry lions, condemned to certain death for refusing to worship other gods. But when King Darius arrived the next morning, expecting to find only bones, he heard Daniel's voice. Calm and serene. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths. The same animals that had torn other prisoners apart treated Daniel like an honored guest. This miracle didn't just save one life. It changed an entire kingdom and established a testimony that echoes through the centuries. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego faced an impossible choice. Bow down before a golden statue or be thrown into a furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal. So hot it killed the soldiers who threw them in. But something extraordinary happened inside that inferno. King Nebuchadnezzar, looking through the flames, saw not 3, but 4 figures walking freely in the fire. When the young men came out, there wasn't even the smell of smoke on their clothes. The fire that should have destroyed them became the stage for one of the greatest miracles of divine protection ever recorded. Running from God seemed like a good idea to Jonah, until a supernatural storm threatened to destroy the ship he was on. Thrown into the sea by his own confession, Jonah should have drowned in the churning waters. Instead, God prepared a great fish that swallowed him alive. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah remained in the belly of this sea creature, having time to reflect and pray. When he was finally vomited onto dry land, Jonah not only survived the most impossible experience anyone can imagine, but also received a second chance to fulfill his divine mission. During a severe drought that lasted years, when famine plagued the entire region, God told Elijah to hide by the brook Cherith. Water was guaranteed, but what about food? The divine solution was as creative as it was miraculous. Ravens, birds known for stealing food, began bringing bread and meat to Elijah, morning and evening, every single day. Not just crumbs, but complete and nutritious meals. This miracle of provision showed that when God decides to protect someone, he can use even the most unexpected methods to ensure the necessary supply. Surrounded by the Syrian army, Elisha's servant woke up in total panic. Horses, war, chariots, and soldiers covered the entire mountain. It was a militarily impossible situation to win, but Elisha remained calm and prayed for his servants' eyes to be opened. Suddenly, the young man could see the spiritual reality. The mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire. God's heavenly army, far more numerous and powerful than any earthly force. Elisha not only escaped, but temporarily blinded the entire enemy army and led them as prisoners to Samaria, transforming certain defeat into total victory. In the middle of a valley covered with completely dry bones, remains of an army dead for a long time, God asked Ezekiel, "Can these bones live?" The human answer would obviously be no, but God had other plans. When Ezekiel prophesied according to divine command, something happened that defies all understanding. The bones began to move, connect, gain muscles, skin, and finally, the breath of life. An entire army came back to life before the prophet's eyes. This miracle showed that for God, no situation is too dead to be restored. Peter slept chained between two soldiers, with guards posted at every door of the prison. Herod had ordered his execution the next morning. There was no humanly possible escape. But during the night, an angel of God entered the prison. The chains automatically fell from Peter's hands, and all the iron doors opened by themselves. Peter thought he was dreaming until he found himself free on the streets of Jerusalem. This miracle not only saved the Apostle's life, but demonstrated that not even the most secure prisons can contain those under divine protection. After a shipwreck on the island of Malta, Paul was helping to make a fire when a venomous viper, fleeing from the heat, fastened onto his hand. The island's inhabitants expected to see him swell up and drop dead immediately. What happened to all other victims? But Paul simply shook the snake off into the fire and continued his normal activities. Hours passed, then days, and nothing happened. The islanders, who first thought he was a murderer being punished by the gods, completely changed their minds and considered him a deity. This miracle opened the doors for Paul to preach throughout the entire island. In the most agonizing moment of Abraham's life, when he had bound his own son on the altar and raised the knife for sacrifice in obedience to divine command, God intervened at the last possible second. Abraham, Abraham, do not lay your hand on the boy. And there, caught by its horns, in a thicket, was a ram. God's perfect provision to replace Isaac in the sacrifice. This miracle not only saved Isaac's life, but established an eternal principle. God always provides a way out in the most desperate moments, even when our faith is being tested to the maximum. These extraordinary stories teach us a fundamental truth. There is no situation too impossible for God. Whether facing armies, wild beasts, burning furnaces, or impenetrable prisons, divine protection manifests exactly when we need it most. These miracles are and just historical accounts. They are living promises that the same God who saved the prophets continues operating in our lives today. When you feel surrounded with no way out, remember, the God who opened the sea, shut the lions' mouths, and raised the dead is on your side. He knows your situation, sees your fears, and has already prepared your deliverance. If these stories touched your heart, leave a comment sharing which miracle impacted you most. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content and hit the bell icon, so you won't miss any messages of faith and hope. God has miracles prepared for your life too.